Hello, I'm Ned Hall, and today, dipping back into the ABC Grandstand archives, it's back to the A-League Elimination Final of 2013-2014 season. Melbourne Victory taking on Sydney FC. And what was an exciting, dramatic season, it saw a Sydney FC side, plenty of talent there with Alessandro Del Piero leading the line for them, and a very good Melbourne Victory team. Archie Thompson still in his pomp, and Guy Finkler also amongst the star players in that lineup. You can join our commentary team now, which included Kimon Taliadoros and Francis Leach. It's Melbourne Victory against Sydney FC.
Grandstand, ABC Grandstand, on radio, online, and on digital radio.
This is the A-League with ABC Grandstand.
Grandstand A-League.
The A-League.
A good line working for him at the top of the penalty area. It's a high ball. It's a skittling ball and put the ball at the top of the net.
Strike comes in. Oh! And it's a wonderful strike.
Dangerous ball. It's into the net. It's the equaliser. And a huge shot. Cannons off the bar. The follow-up is in.
Grandstand A-League.
Wide on the right. A tap in will do it. His second goal. And a star is born.
And it's played in. Shoots and scores. A great height. Header in. They add the championship to the premiership.
The A-League with ABC Grandstand. On ABC Local Radio, on Grandstand Digital, online and streaming on your mobile.
Welcome to the Dockland Stadium on this Friday evening, Good Friday evening in Melbourne for the first final of the 2013-2014 A-League season. And it's the Big Blue. Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC, the two foundation clubs who kicked off the A-League almost 10 years ago in the opening fixture of the competition. A long way back now, but the history between these two teams since has been compelling. This is their 32nd meeting. They currently split it 9 wins each and 13 draws, and in between all of that there have been some wonderful moments of drama, heartbreak, and just a little bit of spice as well along the journey, and we expect plenty more of that here tonight. Francis Leach here, calling the action with Kimon Taliadoros, and also Joe Sullivan on the sideline as well. G'day, Kimon. It's a good place to be tonight.
Well,
how are you?
Is there anywhere else to be on Good Friday, Francis?
Not as far as I'm concerned, my friend.
Wonderful. The atmosphere is really beginning to build here, isn't it, Francis, as the fans make their way in? Not as many games played at Etihad these days with the crowds, but this one in particular I think will be an absolute ripper. It's good to see the Melbourne Victory fans here in numbers, particularly up there in the Northern Terrace, right up high there. They've got a good view from there, Francis.
They do. They have the best view in the house, no doubt about it. They were here on Tuesday night, many of the hardcore fans, to watch that superb performance by Melbourne Victory. A 2-0 win over Guangzhou Evergrande. Marcello Lippi, the World Cup winning coach for Italy in 2006, was here as the coach of the Chinese team. Kevin Muscat has a little piece of history in his back pocket that he saw Guangzhou off that night. A brilliant performance. They scored early, they scored late. It was counter-attacking, it was fast, it was fluent. It was everything you want to see from a team that, to me, has really grown into the challenge of being on the road, both in Asia and around the A-League over the last 2 months.
Indeed, I quite agree with that. And let's not forget, this is the rookie coach we have here today, who took under very difficult circumstances when Ange Postecoglou left and joined the Socceroos early in the season. Kevin Muscat has undergone significant scrutiny with this Melbourne Victory club that has high expectations and well within reason for them to expect to competing for silverware this year. But he's had the added complications of losing key players, particularly throughout the season, as well as the complication of Asian champions, which is difficult. Very few Australian teams have been successful, other than, of course, that wonderful run by Adelaide a few years ago under Aurelio Vidmar. And yet Melbourne's Victory are now poised to advance and sweep all before them, and that performance on Tuesday night really was outstanding, and for me really gave me great confidence in the progress this team has made, Francis, and gives me a lot of confidence in the way in which they can go about playing this game.
Let's assess Sydney FC in all of this too. They've made it to the finals. There was a period of time in the middle of the campaign when things got really ugly for Frank Farina. There was one murderous night at the Sydney Football Stadium in late January where everything went wrong. The team was soundly beaten. He was heckled. Some of the players also copped a mouthful. Things were thrown, things were said. Benner was unfilled, and ever since then, despite the fact they're here in the finals, he's always seemed to be a man on the edge of the end. There's never been the most stable football club, but even though they've made the finals you feel that every game now he's playing for his career as coach.
It seems that way, and it's really symptomatic of the culture of Sydney FC. It really seems to be a club that promises so much upon the appointment of a new coach, with a commitment to that coach and staying the distance and recruiting. But really, Sydney FC have consistently over the years really failed to be have a clear plan on how they want to recruit and how they want to play, and I think that's been the greatest challenge for them. I think that being able to secure Alessandro Del Piero has really covered up a lot of fundamental issues that Sydney FC are going to have to face at the end of the season, one way or the other. So I think this is really their last opportunity to capitalise on his prodigious talent, and it may well be the last time we see him on these shores in the sky blue, other than the All-Star game, of course.
And it has been an enormous privilege as a fan of the game to watch him come here and play with the sort of passion, commitment, and of course the incredible talent that he's always possessed. Sometimes players can coast into the final stage of their careers and not really give a lot. Del Piero's given everything since he's been here, and the game in this country owes him a debt of gratitude, not only for the way that he's played, but the way he's conducted himself as an ambassador of the game. He embodies everything that's beautiful about football, and I'm an enormous admirer of him, and I wish him all the best here tonight. Joe Sullivan's on the sidelines for us this evening, under the roof here at Docklands. Welcome to the broadcast, Joe.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Great to be here, and it's interesting that you do point out Alessandro Del Piero. I'm sitting right next to the players' race, and just before they entered the arena, dozens, young, old men and women, all here, all had their camera phones out looking to take a picture of the great man, and regardless of their colours that they're wearing tonight, that's who they were here to see. So, as you mentioned, it's one of the little subtexts that we're looking forward to. Will we see him continue on maybe for one more week, maybe for a little bit longer? Who knows?
Thank you, Joe. We'll keep up to date with everything that's happening down there this evening, as the two coaches who would have been teammates at different stages of their international careers, maybe as one career was finishing and another starting, and certainly Kevin Muscat was coached by Frank Brunner in the national team back in the day. They've got their agendas for this evening are very, very different. How do you see the two teams turning out here, come on, in the way that they might approach their style of play tonight, particularly Sydney on the road away from home, where last couple of visits to Melbourne have been relatively satisfactory for them, if not great. Their 5-0 victory was probably one of the finest in their history.
Indeed it was, and that was some time ago, and I do think the Melbourne Victory side now is quite different to the one that took the field that day under the rookie coach Kevin Muscat. But I would imagine that the tactics under consideration for Frank Farina tonight would be certainly to approach the first half and possibly even the first 60 minutes, which with a very deep very deep covering defence, both through midfield and the last line. I think that the idea would be that Melbourne Victory are now playing their third game in the space of a week, and the challenge for Victory is to be able to run the game out over that last 15 or 20 minutes. So I would imagine that the tactics that Farina would use are primarily defensive, containing, and then of course relying on Del Piero just to make himself available for the counter-attacks. And they've got the speed with Chianese, and Garcia is actually also coming to some recent form too, and has shown that he's actually quite a consistent finisher for Sydney. So I'd imagine those would be the tactics, and quite the opposite for Victory, of course, who I think are expected to take the game to Sydney and create opportunities right from the outset.
Well, Jonas Teresi has been that man, hasn't he? His second half of the year in particular has been superb, and maybe he's the catalyst tonight for the home team. We're underway, the first of the A-League Finals of 2013-14. Francis Leach, Kimon Tiliadoris, Joe Sullivan with you at the Docklands Stadium on ABC Grandstand Digital. Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC. We're with Adama Traore down the left-hand side for the Victory. He's got the ball with a bit of a heavy touch, and Milligan picks it up on his behalf. Short and sharp passing here from the Victory, back with Milligan. Down the channel looking there for Tracy, but he was bundled off the ball by Sasha Ognovsky, and that will be one of the key battles tonight. Big Sash will try to both physically and I guess psychologically impose himself on Tracy. He's a huge presence back there in the centre of that Sydney FC defence, and he's on the ball now.
Yeah, I think he certainly has provided some stability for Sydney in the defensive third since he joined the club late in the season. He has been a significant contributor there, Francis, and has been part of the reason that Sydney have been able to stay in many games, just their ability to concede less goals than they did earlier in the season.
Chianese has it taken off his toe by Traore. That's a throw for Sydney FC, shot halfway on the right-hand side. Seb Ryle, former Melbourne Victory man, he's really come of age this season. Goes long down the right-hand side. Here's Traore, a bit of work to do as he tracks back and was able to clear the ball to Nathan Coe, who was being pursued by Kian Saint. Sydney FC pick up the ball inside Victory's half. Short there from Dimitrovic. He gives it away. Archie Thompson back in the team tonight. He scored many wonderful goals in this fixture in the past. Gets funneled off the ball, but it drops nicely for Broxham over halfway. Gary is pressed up on the right-hand side. Mr. Fix-It, Lee Broxham, plays everywhere he has to for his captain and his coach. Triesi is the danger man tonight, just dropping in behind the strikers in that little bit of space to try to find a way through, and they do here. Barbarouses, does he draw the offside flag? Thompson puts it into the nets. But the flag is out.
Slick move from Victory. Bit of a warning shot there for Sydney FC, but Sasha Ognenovsky seems fairly content, and they were comfortable that they played the offside trap there quite well. But entertaining start, Francis.
It was. Just looking at the replay, both Barbarouses and Archie Thompson were well offside for that move, and it's been something that's plagued Thompson and Barbarouses this campaign, is pinning those runs at the right time. 0-0 it stays. 2.5 minutes in here. ABC Grandstand Digital. Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC knockout final. Format for tonight as well. As we look at the ball coming down the right-hand side for Kian back to Traore. If we're level at 90 minutes, we play extra time. And it's a bit like a cup final. If we're level after 120, and we go to penalties tonight. There's no replay. It's all or nothing for both. Ryle over halfway for the Victory. Del Piero's touch a bit heavy uncharacteristically, allows Contreras to tip it back to Coe, who spreads to the left-hand side to his ever-reliable left-back in Adama Traore. And he's still ruling the fact, Kim On, that he's not going to be playing for the Socceroos because of some junior football he played in the Ivory Coast at international level. That's the rules, as we watch Archie Thompson down the left-hand side now. Ryle retreating. Thompson wanting to get in on the box, wants to step across, wants to get a shot off. He's got three defenders around him. He's heading towards the byline on the left. Still he goes, Archie, and in the end he runs out of room. Kian takes it off his toe. Drives the ball towards halfway, but Sydney have all pressed up, and it's picked up by Nick Ansell. Spreads to the middle.
Yeah, nice footwork by Archie Thompson, but almost a fantastic run through there from Mark Milligan from the deep-lying midfield role. But just prior to that, Archie Thompson showing those sparkling feet of his until he was engulfed by the light blue wave of Sydney FC.
Ball in dispute in the middle here. Drops for Contreras. He stays on his feet, but right was Garcia who was good for it and wins it back for Sydney FC. Still in their own territory here on the left-hand side. Ali Abbas, the Iraqi international, pokes one forward, but doesn't find the sky blue shirt. Will there be another kind of sky blue shirt in Melbourne next year? With Melbourne Heart set to change name and look. It's been a big talking point this week in the southern capital. Maybe Melbourne City as part of the Manchester City global franchise. Traisi down the right-hand side. A little bit sloppy with that pass. He goes and retrieves.
I think even the Sydney FC chairman, Scott Barlow, had something to say about that this week, Francis. He seemed to be impressed that another club could have the sky blue shirt.
This money talks, doesn't it? Thompson picks it up on the left-hand side. Ryle trying to guard him warily. Back out to Traore. Poke forward again down the left towards the byline. Archie Thompson clips it to the near post. That's easy enough for Rebran Janjentovic to collect across the front of his 6-yard box. And Sydney FC try to break out down the left. Garcia with Abbas. Ali Abbas not happy out there. Felt like he was being impeded, but there is no whistle. Referee Peter Green waves it on. Victory come back over halfway. 0-0, 5 minutes played. Melbourne owning most of the possession early on. Kim on Tiliadoris.
Yeah, as we expected, Melbourne Victory to try and dominate this role and pose themselves on this particular game, both in possession as well as goal-scoring opportunities. So far, really just the one offside. Through ball, in fact, and the second one through to Milligan, which was he almost got to. So I think Victory certainly showing signs of attack.
Guerrier runs into the box. He looked at Richard Garcia and said, "I can take you here," and just ran away from him. But in the end, his final ball wasn't up to the quality required. And Sydney FC retrieve and then come through the middle. But it's a poor ball from Abbas looking for Del Piero. Nick Ansell picks it off. He's just over halfway on the right. Broxham into the middle. Milligan steps out of one tackle well. Finkler, always dangerous in that final third as he heads towards the attacking D. He can pick a pass better than most, but on this occasion he couldn't get the through ball working. Back to Janjetovic. Hasn't missed his opportunity, has he, since he's replaced Ivan Neshevsky between the sticks for Sydney FC. He's been good value.
Yeah, he's been very dependable and pretty consistent with that Sydney FC backline the second half of the season, I think. Where their trouble has been is consistently being able to win games or to play good football. They've tended to rely on the individual brilliance of one Alessandro Del Piero, and after all, who wouldn't? But they've really been unable to provide any real depth to support that and convince other clubs that they're playing a brand of football that can consistently win games. And I think that'll be their greatest challenge tonight.
They're all back on their line at the moment because Victory are pressing left and right. This is Traore. Out towards Milligan, 30 yards. He lines it up on the right boot, seeing and sensing the danger there. Antonis closed him down. Ricochets out, but comes back to Finkley, who will go first time on the right boot from 25 yards. But he got under that one a little bit and was over the crossbar and out for a goal kick for Victory. Pressing early on here. Scoreless after 7.5. ABC Grandstand Digital. Melbourne Victory 0. Sydney FC 0. Joe Sullivan down on the sidelines. The estimate of the crowd in tonight.
Hard to say at this point in time. It's clearly not full. Still making plenty of noise, though, which is a positive side for the home team.
Long ball down the left for Sydney comes to nothing. Bit of a waste, and it's easily collected outside his area by Nathan Coe. No Adrian Layer tonight. Injury-riddled season continues for the former Victory captain, so Nick Ansell has to deputise in that central defensive role, and he's on the ball now. Comes to Contreras. And back to Guerrier. Sydney FC retreat over halfway once again. Broxham clips it long. Looking for Barbarouses. Will chest it down. He's inside the area. And it forced a hurry clearance back there from the Sydney FC defence. And it was Nikola Petkovic who hooks it away for a corner kick. First of the evening from the right-hand corner flag for Melbourne Victory. They are attacking Janjetovic's goal at the Latrobe or Lockett Street end in this first 45.
Yeah, that really was explosive from Costa Barbarouses there. He took off very quickly to get that through ball, and that's a danger for Sydney FC. They were caught flat-footed there, but well intercepted in the end to deny Melbourne Victory an opportunity on goal.
Traise with the corner kick. It's looping in there, but easy for Janjetovic, who commands his area well. Takes it, looks for the early right. It's a good one too. Bit of space opening up on the right hand. Huge acres of space out there at the moment for Kianese. He's over halfway and through the centre circles. Now he comes to the left. It was Dimitrijevic on the ball now. Sydney's first real attacking moment to press Melbourne Victory back inside their own area here. Abbas tries to whip it in first time, gets to the back post. They all leave it. Hooked away by Contreras for a throw. It's a few moments of indecision there in the Melbourne Victory defence, but it is a Sydney FC throw about 30 yards up from their right corner flag.
And that all came from a quick release from the goalkeeper, Janjetovic, to release, I think it was Gianese, and within matter of seconds, Sydney FC were right up the other end. That's actually the first time Sydney FC have actually held the ball in possession in the Melbourne Victory, over the Melbourne Victory half. So, and now just trying to consolidate with some possession now as they string some passes together and some combinations.
They come out to the right-hand side. Del Piero waits. Guerrier warily watches as he slides a pass into Seb Ryle. The two have combined well in recent times. An unlikely goal-scoring partner, but Seb Ryle's tucked a few away this campaign. A couple of weeks ago, he slotted one away from a delicious pass from Alessandro Del Piero in the rain at the Sydney Football Stadium. He knows how to read the great Italian master better than most in this team, strangely enough.
Yes, it is, isn't it, given the incident earlier in the season, or was that late last season? I just can't even remember right now when Ali Abbas and Del Piero had an altercation during training at Sydney FC.
Seems like a million years ago now, doesn't it? There's been so much that has gone under the bridge for both since then. 0-0 it stays, 10.5 minutes. Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC. A couple of short but fine passes from the boys in Sky Blue just to re-establish a bit of possession here. Dimitrijevic down the right. Once again, it's Ryle who likes to get forward and race down the right-hand wing. To Kianese into the box. Milligan had to be quick with his feet and was. They're trying to play their way out of trouble here, Melbourne Victory. They want to be careful. They're still inside their own area. They do it well. Archie Thompson clips one into the middle. Traise arrows one to the right-hand side beautifully. Pushing down by Kostas Barbarouses. Now it's Sydney retreating. He tries to run past Matt German, who just hooks it out for a Melbourne Victory throw, but that was a good counterpunch from the home team who have the throw.
Beautiful switch. The composure in their own penalty box there to play the ball out, get the ball into Troisi, who immediately knew where to switch the ball, and Barbarousse unfortunately just couldn't get that ball out from under his feet, and then his subsequent touch knocked it too far ahead, so German was able to intercept quite easily. But Victory also a very strong counter-attacking side, of course, and can hurt Sydney FC, particularly as they look to venture forward and try and maintain possession in the opposition half.
It's a goal kick for Vedran Janjetovic. And then the left they go. Another long ball. That looked like a lost prospect before it was even hit. Richard Garcia a little frustrated with that as it flew high over his head. Guerrier for the Victory with a throw. And it's Pablo Contreras, the Chilean international, who has represented his country in numerous big tournaments. Won't be there this year when Chile take on the Socceroos in the World Cup. They're a much younger and vibrant team at the moment, but he's playing a role here. Finkler, the Brazilian, into the area for the Melbourne Victory. Didn't get all of that on that cross that left Archie Thompson a bit short, but it's picked up by Troy. He goes down underneath a Kienese tackle, gets up and goes again. Didn't wait for the whistle, gets around Seb Ryle down the left-hand side, then he runs out of ideas. Enterprising, but in the end, a little flawed from the Ivorian. Now Sydney trying to break out on the left-hand side. Ali Abbas, Richard Garcia, who has also played at the World Cup. He's famously started that devastating night in Durban against Germany. I was there that night when he was known as the striker for the Socceroos. Could have scored in the first minute of that game. And things might have been... No, they wouldn't have been different. Germany were all over us from that point on. But, yeah, he's had a very solid career playing in England. Helped Hull climb out of the Championship and played in a famous playoff at Wembley to get them into the Premier League as well. And here he is in sky blue for Sydney FC.
And I think last year at Melbourne Harding, he was the player of the year too, and he's a consistent goal scorer, but not really a part of Ange Postecoglou's plans. I don't think he figures as a part of the solution as far as the squad that's going to Rio is concerned. Nevertheless, he has demonstrated an ability to be a consistent performer at a high level in Australia.
Abbas down the left, but German's trying to lend support to the attack. He went to throw for Sydney FC, just over halfway. And back on the halfway line now. Bit of a subdued start to this one. Melbourne Victory 0, Sydney FC 0. No real chances are presented in the first 15 minutes. Joe Sullivan's at ground level. A little stilted sort of tempo to this, Joe, from where you're sitting down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, Melbourne had probably the better of the start. Sydney is starting to work their way back into it, but it's just gone into a little bit of a lull, I fear.
And it's back with Nathan Coe. He has to hurriedly clear the ball, but he's good for it. He spreads it out to the left-hand side where Adama Traore has a little bit of space to work in just behind the halfway line for the Melbourne Victory. Sydney happy to wade across the halfway line with the two banks of four and invite Victory to try to pick their way through at the moment.
Yeah, and just Traore looking probably the most positive of the two fullbacks at the moment, looking to get forward. And Milligan now on the ball, also looking to try and play those killer passes. Finkley yet to really get on the ball and show what he has to offer, Francis, but he's been well marked to this point by Antonis and Petkovic.
Troisi picks it up from about 35 yards down the right-hand side. First time shot was easy enough for Janjetovic to pick up. Here is near post. Sydney on the breakout here. Nice ball spread there by Garcia. Invites Ansel to quickly get on his bike to cover because Kienese was chasing him down. And the Victory defence to marshal their forces. Ansel still inside his own box and goes long towards the middle of the park. Finkler's first touch was reasonable. Wins the ball back. Rocks him in behind in that defensive midfield role. Finds Troisi into space on the left. Archie Thompson, the veteran, still got plenty of wings in his heels. Sharp ball to Finkler at the outside of his boot. Wasn't a bad idea, but he drifted offside. But just clipped it on the outside of his boot. You saw the run coming down the left from Troisi, but he was in an offside position.
Yeah, he was well offside there, and the timing of his run perhaps should have been better judged. He was wide enough to have full sight of the line and just drifted before Finkler. Perhaps wasn't expecting that first time ball from Finkler, perhaps a turn from Finkler, but Gee, he's got a lovely touch, Finkler, when he's involved. He's a potential match winner for Victory, and of course he didn't play midweek, if I'm not mistaken, so that he'll run out the full 90 minutes here, and he'll have plenty to offer.
How much will that be a factor later on? Some of these players have played a lot of football in the last little while. In Wellington on the weekend last, you're here in Melbourne against Guangzhou Evergrande midweek, and now in a final against Sydney FC, and then they've got to go to Korea to play Jeonbuk Motors in the decisive game of the group stage of the Asian Champions League in the middle of next week, regardless of the result here, where all teams in that group are tied on 7 points. It's all to play for. Traore down the left. First time ball, not a good one in the box. It might drop for Finkler. It doesn't, though. Ricochets away from him. Geary are pressing up quickly and putting pressure on, but Sydney FC withstand and then break out down the left. This is Ali Abbas. Nowhere to go there, so they have to come back inside. It was pumped through the middle by Terry Antonis, who's dropping into a deeper role at the moment, demanding the ball in the middle of the park. Milos Dimitrovic. It's a very different looking squad to the one that Sydney FC started the campaign with too. Serious overhaul it's undergone throughout the process of this campaign. Some mainstays, Ryle, Del Piero, Abbas amongst them.
Yes, you're quite right, and possibly for the better too, I must say. Although it's sad not to see Terry McFlynn out here. He's been a tremendous servant for Sydney FC, but I think he's even the first to recognise that his best years are behind him, but he's been a wonderful player for that club, and been a key part of their success over the years. I think when it comes to games like this, where desperation and commitment matter, he's always been a wonderful performer for Sydney FC.
Trace picks the ball up in the middle of the park. He's trying to snake his way through the defence. He couldn't do so he retreats a little bit to Milligan, 30 yards out. Ball pucked in towards Barbarouses, who'd run towards the penalty spot, but Bogdanovsky was aware of the danger. This is Dimitrovic behind halfway for Sydney FC, looking left and right, looking for an option. Del Piero's peeled out to the right wing. He has it now. The Italian legend is skinned to the ball easily by Contreras on that occasion. Just to watch him as he runs away from him. Centrally now, Traise approaching the attacking deep. Towards Archie Thompson, he must score. It does! What a wonderful goal!
Yeah. That was a fantastic counter-attack from Melbourne Victory. Really classic Melbourne Victory. Contreras, the canny Chilean, dispossessed his counterpart Alessandro Del Piero wide on the left and immediately played the ball forward. That was a terrific through ball there from, who was it, Truisi? Through to Archie Thompson, who just showed the composure and skill to bend the ball and put inside that far post, Francis.
Well, Del Piero gave the ball up, and that worked from Contreras to race forward, and he had the presence of mind to find a player in the middle, and Traise picks the pass out. He levelled it beautifully because Archie Thompson started his run from behind him, but he just knew he'd be there. And textbook from Thompson, who's bent a million of those into nets all over the world.
Huh? It was just fantastic, Archie. Well done, son. That really was a magnificent finish, and we weren't surprised to see that go in the net, but just relieved that in fact did. And he's so pleased. Wonderful goal by Melbourne Victory. Contreras also been the subject of a great deal of criticism over this campaign. In particular, he's been criticised for his lack of pace, his inconsistency, but on that occasion, his interception and dispossession of Del Piero was critical to Victory being able to create that chance.
1-0 Melbourne Victory, 20 minutes in. Joe Sullivan at ground level. Emotional Archie Thompson missed the midweek game because of a family bereavement, and we saw some of that emotion there. We'll get to you in a sec as we watch Sydney FC come forward, trying to find an instant response here. And they're still coming forward. Ball in the box. Contreras deals with that from Matt German. And he's back on the ball again now. Sydney instantly stung into action here. Antonis. But Archie Thompson picks that up, tracking back, working forward and back for his team tonight. As is Traise, he provided the assist again. Another moment to add to his wonderful season. Victory skinning Sydney FC in the middle of the park once more. This was Milligan this time on Dimitrovic, who was caught standing still and almost able to burst forward beyond the defence, but they marshalled their force just in time. Down to Joe. Yeah, very emotional from Archie just then.
He certainly was, and surrounded by his teammates. And as you mentioned, he looked up to the heavens. He pointed the two fingers up, definitely saying, "I'm thinking of you," as I score that one.
1-0 victory. A man who was haunted Sydney FC from the opening fixture of the A-League proper. It's the first time they played. Archie Thompson, probably the last remnants of that first campaign that's still playing in the A-League. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Maybe Matt Thompson might have been running around for the Mariners back then.
He would have been, and he's on the bench, of course, for Sydney FC. You're quite right, Francis.
Last of the original A-Leaguers. And Archie still finding the back of the net. What a servant he's been for Melbourne victory. Might still play a massive role in this finals campaign. They lead at 1-0. Have the Sky Blues got it in them to find a response here? Plenty of time on the clock to do so. They're just 22 minutes old here. ABC Grandstand Digital. Francis Leach, Kim Ontiliadouris, and Joe Sullivan with you. And Melbourne victory in Sydney FC cutthroat final. The winner marches on to a prelim. The loser thinks about next year, or if they've got it, Asian Champions League commitments. Thompson through the middle again. Sydney a little wary back there. Vekovic's ball was just a little short for Janjetovic, who came off his line to make sure that he could clear it. He only gets it as far as Adama Traore, who's on the ball now down the left-hand side. Through the centre he goes. Milligan into the centre circles. Del Piero not one for a lot of tracking back and running these days.
Ball.
They're working off him a little bit because of that. Guerria for the victory down the right. Troyese hovering, menacing. Broxham 30 yards from goal. Thompson back to Lee Broxham. He drives it wider still to the left-hand side. Traore watched warily there by Kienese. Kienese does well and forces him back towards halfway. Good hustle there from the Sydney man. Ansell for the Melbourne victory. Suddenly they're imposing themselves again here, the Navy Blues.
And that was, of course, the worst possible start that Sydney could have imagined. Going one behind, away from home, knowing that that would then require them to come and take the game to Melbourne victory, which, of course, plays into victory's hands. They're a very strong side on the counter-attack, as they just showed in scoring that goal. And it certainly means that Sydney FC are going to have to try and up the ante a little bit. Although I would still imagine they'd be confident of scoring in the last 15 or 20 minutes against a tiring victory.
Ryle, 30 yards out. Nice ball from the outside of his boot to the left-hand side. Garcia approaching the edge of the penalty area. Back to Ryle, who lets it run to Antonis, who's looking for an opportunity to fire from 35 yards. They spread further wide to the left. Ali Abbas is out there, but he has drawn the offside flag, and the attack amounts to nothing. 1-0, Melbourne victory. Archie Thompson, the scorer, on 19 minutes after he was played in beautifully by a player in rare form at the moment, in James Troisi, who had the freedom of the final third. He was trundling towards the attacking D, but he had to get it right, and he just waited it beautifully from Archie Thompson, who came from deep on the left-hand side and then bent the shot past Vedran Janjevic's outstretched arm and curling neatly beyond the back post and into the net. Great technique too, wasn't it, to watch a striker just open the body up, get the instep ready, and then deliver perfectly.
It really was, Francis, and it had to be inch perfect to be able to wrap it around Janjetovic, who had also held very good position. He'd stayed upright, but Archie's finish was sublime, absolutely sublime, and it actually hit the side netting to give you an idea about how perfectly timed and placed it was from him, and from a first-time shot, of course.
1-0 it is. 25 minutes played. And the game takes a breath here as Nick Ansell's on the ball for Melbourne victory in that central defensive role. Another player that's come through the Victory Youth Academy setup. Nick Ansell, originally there as a National Youth League player from 2009, so he's done the hard yards through the farm system. Left-hand side, the Sydney FC boys go now, but once again Del Piero is the player that gives up the ball, and he's labouring a little bit out there at the moment. Thompson He's not. He's gathering pace as he runs towards the box. Has Finkler on the right-hand side outside of him, trying to look for a ball in towards the 6-yard box. It's just quickly hurried away by Sydney FC and they can see the throw. 35 yards up from the right corner flag. They're under pressure back there at the moment.
Yeah, Alessandro Del Piero is rather uncharacteristic, hasn't he, so far, Francis, unless he's playing possum. But really, he's been certainly a little bit slow. His distribution has been quite ordinary. He's been picked off a couple of times, and of course, when in possession, he was relieved of that by Contreras to set up the victory goal, and he just seems to be playing well within himself, which is probably the way he does go about his game at the moment. He contains his energy and uses it selectively and powerfully, of course, as he needs to at his age, and decisively. But at this stage, he's certainly not offering anything for Sydney FC in being able to play out from their defensive half.
Archie Thompson took a bit of a knock and a bit gingy getting up. It's a Melbourne victory free kick from the foul. And that's Mark Milligan on the left-hand side. Look at that from there from Trees, who just rolls off a tackle, then plays it to Thompson, then down the left-hand side towards the byline. He gets beyond Sebral, stands up, wins the ball back, tries to fire into the area, but comes off Milos Dimitrovic. But in the end, I think the flag was up. And it's a goal kick for Janjetovic.
It's a bold, very confident side, this victory side. The diagonal balls that they're playing into midfield, Francis, either from defence or from midfield, the midfield position is really an indication to me that they have a great deal of confidence in one another. The balls are being fired in at great pace to ensure that they aren't intercepted, and the responsibility lies with the person receiving the ball, be it either Troisi or someone like Milligan or Broxton, who are on the receiving end of those passes, to be able to control it and then provide a platform for further forward play. Very impressive start from victory.
1-0 it is. Archie Thompson on 19 minutes with the opening goal. Joe Sullivan's at ground level for us as we tick towards the first half an hour gone. And just looking at Del Piero out there, Joe, the pace of the game isn't hectic by any stretch of the imagination, but just a couple of times the victory players have fancied getting at him.
That's it, and you've got to target your opposition better players sometimes to get in their heads. But just to follow on from Kimon's point as well, you look at the two squads on the sidelines and you really get a sense, even from the bench itself, the Melbourne victory up and about. I know the two managers are two contrasting personalities with Kevin Muscat up and about, but Frank Farina, we know he's cool, calm and collected, hasn't moved from his seat once. Meanwhile, you see Kevin up, he's talking to the referees, he's talking to his players, very animated on the sideline.
Yes, he'll have his now traditional half-time chat with the ref, Peter Green, as he comes off.
Well, often the refs need that guidance, don't they, Francis, for the second half?
Troisi doesn't need any guidance. Look at that ball from the centre to the right-hand side. Barbarouses joins in the attack as Guerrier on the outside, and he goes alone. He goes it on his own. Not the best option because in the end his shot was fairly meek at the near post. But what a ball from James Troisi that split two defenders and found its way into the path of the oncoming Barbarouses down the right wing.
Do you think James Troisi knows Ange Postecoglou is here tonight watching, Francis? Because he really is in fantastic form, isn't he? His passing is superb. His control and receiving the ball is top class, and he's providing a focal point for this victory side. Finkler's hardly been cited. It's all been about James Troisi, and he really has acquitted himself magnificently.
He's in the groove at the moment, that's for sure. He's really been the driving force of this a strong finish to the campaign from Kevin Muscat's men. 1-0 they lead it. Archie Thompson scoring on 19 minutes. Courtesy of Troy, he says, wonderful assist. And we're just ticking over half an hour here. ABC Grandstand Digital. Francis Leach and Kimon Tiliadoris and Joe Sullivan on the sideline for us. There's a foul there on Terry Antonis and a Sydney FC free kick. And they're coming down the left-hand side. They've barely been in Nathan Coe's penalty area with any purpose whatsoever. Matt German just gets a shirt tug there from Lee Broxham, and it'll be a Sydney FC free kick now. White right out on the left sideline there. And this will be 35 yards up from the corner flag, so he can be bent in towards the attacking D, and it might give the likes of Ognjanowski and Sebral something to work with in the air here. And also German, who's a big presence as well as he comes forward. Pekovic delivers. It is there. It's headed down there by Ognjanowski, but not with any real purpose. It does take a deflection. It will be a corner kick for Sydney FC, their first of the evening from the right corner flag.
And Sasha Ognjanowski and Matt German do present a target for Sydney FC if they're able to get the ball in the air there, and that's perhaps what Alessandro Del Piero will try from this corner.
Right corner flag, bends it away. It was a good ball too, as you'd expect. And flying in there was Jim, but he couldn't make meaningful contact. Drops back out towards Ognanovski, who heads it down towards the attacking D. It's still there for Sydney FC. Victory haven't convincingly cleared their lines. They do now. And that's Milos Dimitrovic who retrieves. Interested to get your thoughts on Antonis' role tonight. Playing a much deeper lying role in midfield. Ognanovski jumps high to that ball. Right hand side, Del Piero wants to line up on the left boot. Tips it back out. Out it comes. It deflects off the Dimitrovic shot and out for another corner kick. But that was better work there from the Sky Blues.
I think the Sydney FC structure relies on one defender staying very deep, and that really has been Terry Antonis tonight. That allows Alessandro Del Piero the luxury of being able to float without defensive responsibilities, which means that both Petkovic and Dimitrovic need to do that extra running, Francis. So that ensures that, in fact, now that I think about it, Terry Antonis really has a fantastic passing range, and I think he's capable of playing that role particularly well for Sydney FC. But I'd very much like to see him being being placed in a more forward role or forward involvement for the Sydney FC team, because he really does have a wonderful ability to distribute the ball both with his left and right foot. He's a tremendous player and a great prospect for the future.
Not the best goal kick there from Nathan Coe. Gives a Sydney FC ball straight back. In the middle they come. Garcia stays on his feet and sees Contreras off. Now he's on the edge of his penalty area on the right-hand side. Comes back outside. It's Dimitrovic who lifts it towards the back post. Still it's there. Del Piero goes outside to Ali Abbas. First time ball looking for Ryle, who scores and equalises. He's on the score again.
Oh, boy.
He finds a way. And now he enjoys his moment at the corner flag. And it's 1-1. Great response from Sydney FC, and Seb Ryle comes back to haunt his old team.
Indeed it was, and I guess that's really been on the back of 2 or 3 minutes of sustained pressure from Sydney FC. A free kick followed by a corner, both putting pressure on the Melbourne Victory defence. They really haven't been able to get the ball out, and on that particular occasion, Del Piero received the ball just outside the box, played Ali Abbas in, and it was a beautiful low cross.
That slack defending. He had 3 defenders around him, and he just stepped between the triangle and was first to be alert to that ball coming in. And we talked about his ability to score in the pre-game discussion, and he's done it again.
Yeah, incredible. Seb Ryle, and he ran from deep to finish that off. He must have been... he was almost outside the box when he started his run there, and Ali Abbas was lining up his pass. Well done. Tremendous reading of the game, and the Victory defence were left flat-footed there.
Joe Sullivan at ground level.
Yeah, look, a lovely little finish there, and you're doing some dance moves in the goal. In the corner that might have rivaled you, Francis, in your younger days.
I wish. And Traore gets collected here in a tackle from Kianese, and it's a Melbourne Victory free kick from that foul. 30 yards up from the byline on the left, just sort of almost parallel to the edge of the penalty area out there. So they'll camp just inside the penalty box from this Finkler free kick, and you imagine they're going to pile in at the back post here and see if they can get the go-ahead goal again. Finkler, he'd make this 30 yards from goal. Del Piero stands sentinel at the edge of the penalty area on the left. Finkler goes in there now. Milligan bends his head. It bends just past Nick Ansell, who arrived at the back post. It was a good ball. It drifted into a dangerous area. Ansell couldn't apply the finishing touch. It's 1-1.
And that was a good opportunity for Victory. Lovely ball there by Finkler. It was quite low, didn't really get much above head height the whole way, and somehow eluded the first batch of players. And Nick Ansell running through at the far post there was rather surprised to see the ball fall at feet level and was unable to react quickly enough to be able to redirect it towards the goals. But, Victory, still a little bit of shock, I'd imagine. Sydney FC have not really shown any signs of being able to penetrate Melbourne Victory up until that last couple of minutes when there was that sustained period of possession and pressure, and Victory just failed to be able to get the ball out of the danger zone.
1-1 it is. The equaliser from Seb Ryle, former Melbourne Victory player, just couldn't break into the first team setup when Muscat and Leia were the mainstays in the centre of that defence, and he's had a rough time of it in the last couple of years, but has really blossoming now. Sydney FC having to work defensively now. Finkler attacking deep. Archie Thompson's there again and should score. He should score. He just missed from the rebound off Janjetovic. They came back to him and he just couldn't dig it out under his right toe. First time shot, probably not up to the Thompson standard, but they ripped the defence apart. They were at 6 and 7s there.
Yeah, and it was actually, it could have been either Thompson or Barbarouses who was in a position to finish there, but that's terrific goalkeeping from Janjetovic. He got out quickly, stayed on his feet, and Archie Thompson had the angle narrowed down so quickly that he was unable to slip it past Janjetovic and it went for a corner. But lovely ball by Finkler there.
Triese with the corner kick from the right-hand side. It's Melbourne victory 1, Sydney FC 1. 38 minutes played first half. Near post, Finkler flicks on. Thompson still there. It's away there by Petkovic, who sees it out for a corner from the left-hand side. Victory trying to find a response before half-time. Maybe a little bit stung. They went to sleep inside their own penalty box to allow Sebral to sneak in and score. And they had the numbers there to deal with it. They had 3 defenders in a tight little triangle just in front of the keeper. Anyway, that's come and gone. And this is Guy Finkler again. Left corner flag in the flashing orange boots. To the back post he goes. A little bit too much on that. Milligan will get the header back across goal and almost. And Janjetovic had to tip it over from a tight angle. But this Sydney custodian was good for it and just got a fingertip to stop that one from dipping in under the bar, Kimon.
Yeah, it was. It was a tight angle, but it was a tremendous header. He got a lot of power on that, Mark Milligan, from quite an acute angle, but tremendous set piece from Finkler, who went to the far post and has done again.
Janjetovic palms away. He'll concede another corner, this time from the left-hand side, but in the process, I think he's flattened one of his teammates, and it's Terry Antonis that gets up holding his jaw.
And I think all of them are grateful there, Francis. Whatever it takes, just get that ball away from the goals. And this is Melbourne Victory's 4th successive corner in the space of less than a couple of minutes.
This time from the right corner flag again. Tracy once more the man with the dead ball responsibility. And they've been good ones too, must be said. He hasn't wasted one yet. They're not going to change it up and play a short corner. They're going to try their luck again with another ball that'll bend in.
There's about 4 Victory players and 5 Sydney FC players congregating around Janjetovic, the Sydney FC keeper. He's going to find it very difficult to move around that sort of congestion.
And it looks like they're packing a scrum back there as we watch Oglenovsky trying to mine Milligan. They do play it short. Guerrier fires it in and it's off. Another deflected corner as Guerrier fired from the right-hand side from about 20 yards. And that was creeping in the near post.
It sure was. Nice variation there from Victory, playing it short into Guerrier, who crept up from a deep position and struck a shot just from the corner of the box, and that was definitely on target, Francis.
Finkler this time. Deep again. Milligan with a free header. There it is, but this time it's straight at Janjetovic, and the crisis abates for now. And if anything, the breakout might be on for Sydney FC. They come to the left-hand side. Antonis. Sharp ball through to Kianese. Nice ball to Sebral. Bursts into the box again. Stays up. Maybe could have taken the touch there from Traore, but didn't go to ground. And in the end, it's Melbourne Victory that concede a corner kick on the left-hand side. But great counter punch there from the Sky Blues.
Wonderful. The danger man, Ali Abbas. And we just talked about Terry Antonis. His beautiful ball there through to Sebral. But another tiny intervention there by, who was it, Adam Traore?
Yep. Del Piero from the left corner flag in front of the Victory fans at the Burke Street end, who saw their team go ahead, then concede, then batter Janjetovic's goal without much luck. Good ball in. Traore's the first man there to head away for the Victory. Barbarouses inside the defensive D. Couldn't control the ball, but Triese strong. He bursts forward. This time he's spread towards Finkler. Doesn't pay off. It's picked up by the Sky Blues again. It's Abbas who pumps one to the left-hand side. Del Piero getting more and more involved as this half is dragged on, working his way into the game. 40 minutes played now. Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1. Burst into a very entertaining contest, this one, and you feel like it's just going to ratchet up from here on. Dimitrijevic for Sydney FC. Abbas down the left-hand side, another good ball. Garcia approaches near post. Del Piero off the woodwork.
Dear.
Oh, just inches away from going ahead, Sydney FC. Coming back the other way, Barbarouses. They're backpedaling now. Look at him motor through the middle, Triose. It's a dummy run. Archie Thompson, right-hand side, looking to go first time left foot! And it's just wide.
Oh, my God. Whew. How do we capture that last 30 seconds of lightning counter-attack from Sydney FC? Alessandro Del Piero had a left-foot finish there from inside the 6-yard box, just on the angle, hit the woodwork, and Victory counter-attacked immediately through Truisi, who released Thompson out on the right hand, or Barbarousis rather, who released Thompson on the right-hand side, and his left-foot shot this time didn't curl back and just stayed wide of the post.
So it stays at 1-1, but only just. We spoke about Del Piero. He's like a snake lying in the sun, like a killer waiting to pounce. And when the moment arrives, suddenly it's a burst of energy and power, and he got there. Now it's Victory again. Barbarousis slow, looking to release Trieste on the left-hand side from about 25 yards. Just couldn't find the angle. Once again, it's end-to-end. Garcia for Sydney. Del Piero now starting to really get into his work. Victory having to backpedal again to try to shore up the defence. Sydney FC working to the right-hand side. Matrajevic. Del Piero presents 30 yards from goal. Happy to give it back to Ryle out on the right-hand side. Down the right channel he goes. Presenting there's Dimitrajevic. Will he put a first-time ball in the box? He waits for Del Piero on the edge of the area on the right-hand side. Back heel. Dimitrajevic is going to line up the shot. He does, but it's straight at the feet of Nathan Cope. Beautiful craft there once again from the Italian legend, who just a sweet little back heel clip to at least give Dimitrajevic a look at a shot on the left boot. Victory give the ball away, getting their own half. They're looking a bit ragged at this point. Ryle spreads it to the right-hand side. Jason to the penalty area. Kianese battling away with Traore from Melbourne Victory. Traore does well. Ansel there in support. They try to play their way out of danger. Milligan has a look beyond. Not a lot on at the moment, but Traore is pulled out to the left on the left-hand side. He crosses over halfway. Barbarousis is ahead of him. He might look to the right. There's nobody really pressing forward. Gary is getting there now. They come through the middle, but that's not a good ball from Milligan. Bounces off the head of a player in sky blue, and that might have been Terry Antonis, and it's all the way through to Janjetovic for the keeper to clean up for Sydney.
And this game has opened up now, Francis. Both teams not quite as conservative. Sydney FC certainly with Janjetovic on the ball, and Antonis increasingly are able to find Alessandro Del Piero in more often, and he's certainly imposed himself on this game now, and Sydney are far more threatening with Alessandro Del Piero in control of the ball.
1-1 it is, but boy, it's been fun. Everything you want from a final. It took a little while to ferment, but now it's one hell of a brew we've got for the second half, you feel. We go to penalties. If there's no result after 120, that will have its own drama. There's a long way to go before we're there. You sense there might be more goals than this before that. Del Piero rides a challenge. Kianese presents towards the attacking D. Just the touch was a little bit short for Dimitrajevic, who arrived and pointed the penalty area on the right-hand side. Victory reclaimed the ball, but that's a terrible ball from Traore. And Bass picks it up. Still inside Victory territory. Garcia spears one to Del Piero on the edge of the penalty. Another exquisite back heel for Ryle. Near the right corner flag. Goes to the back post. They rise high. Milligan with a header away. Finkler chests it down. At right back. Thompson clips it beautifully to Guerrero, and then onwards to Finkler. Beyond halfway. The Brazilian puts on the gas. Pass back to Guerrero. Try to touch it back to Archie Thompson. Still they go forward, but no panic in the Sydney defence on this occasion. Pekovic picks up to Abbas, and now Victory have to retreat again. Del Piero is starting to put some miles into those legs. It's bundled over by Mark Milligan. Foul and free kick for Sydney FC. 15 yards forward of halfway on the left wing. The Juve legend, who will be making at least one final flourish in the All-Stars game against Juventus. What day that'll be. In Sydney at the Olympic Stadium, it might be. What a way that would be to say goodbye if that is goodbye.
Well, it certainly would be, and I have no doubt that Alessandro Del Piero is the man responsible for putting the A-League on the global map, Francis.
He really is
brought
now.
The spotlight to this country.
He wants to put Sydney FC on the map here tonight again. Nice ball out under the right-hand side. Kianese near the attacking D. Thinks about the shot. Has the overlap there from Dimitrajevic. Doesn't do it either, really. In the end, it just cannons off Lee Broxham and concedes the corner. And it's Sydney FC who are asking the final questions of this first half.
Can only be only a couple of minutes left, surely. And
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute about a time for Joe Sullivan downstairs. Thank you, Joe. So Del Piero marks the spot near the right corner flag. Will bend it away at a height that will be inviting for the likes of Sasha Ognanovsky. And he goes again. Ognanovsky's there. Nobody gets purchase on that. There's a foul and a push, and it's a Melbourne victory ball. Sash picks it up and throws it back to Nathan Coe to waste a bit of time, and Peter Green says that's enough for the first 45, and we head to the sheds. Knotted at 1 each. Melbourne victory 1, Sydney FC 1. Archie Thompson opening the scoring after 19 minutes. He was played in beautifully by James Troisi down the left-hand side. He opened up his body perfectly and curled one past Janjetovic, and victory looked good for their lead. But then, on 33 minutes, Sydney started to get into their work. Seb Bryle found his way into Nathan Coe's penalty area, and the pass that came in from the left just, split three defenders who watched as he ghosted in between them and then clipped it home in the most delightful fashion to add to his scoring for 2013 and 14 to equalise. They could have been ahead, Sydney FC, a couple of moments later when Richard Garcia played a ball to the near post and Alessandro Del Piero came flying through, met it beautifully, only for it to cannon flush off the near upright and back out.
Well, I certainly think of the two coaches, Frank Farina would be the one who's happiest. They would have hoped going into half-time the scores would have been level and Sydney FC would still be in the game. They would have anticipated or certainly planned to contain the dominance or the possession-based dominating style of Melbourne victory and ensure that they give themselves a chance to be able to play their style of game, which best suits, of course, which is to counter-attack, particularly through Alessandro Del Piero. But in this first half, been particularly impressed with Janjetovic and in his distribution. And very, very important for Sydney FC as they turn defence into attack. And of course the midfielders in Dimitrovic and Ryle have been fantastic. Ryle getting forward to score that goal for Francis, and has been a perpetual problem for victory throughout that first half. On the other hand, for Melbourne victory, Barbarouses has been quiet. Thompson, when he has received the ball, has looked dangerous. Also had another gilt-edged chance to send his team ahead. And Milligan steady, Broxham too steady. Contreras contributed with a magnificent tackle on Del Piero. Traore and Guerrier, steady games from them as well. But really the game is perfectly poised, and what magnificent finals football, Francis.
Joe Sullivan's been at ground level. The demeanour of both teams, they headed to the shed show.
Look, I think it's pretty much business as usual, as much as it can be in a final. Not too much emotion shown by both teams. I mean, the job's ahead of both teams here, 1-1 at half-time.
Thank you, Joe. So that's the score here. It's Grandstand A-League action here on this Friday night. Tomorrow night, the second of the elimination finals is between the Central Coast Mariners and Adelaide United. Adelaide could have finished as high as second if they had won their game against Newcastle last weekend. A really frustrating day for Josip Gombau not to get a result there, and that condemned them to a trip to Gosford to take on the Mariners, who had a bit of heartbreak midweek themselves with John Hutchison conceding a late own goal that they might have wrecked their Asian Champions League campaign. So both teams having to pick themselves up, come on.
Indeed, but I've been particularly impressed with the way the Mariners have closed out the season, also with a rookie coach in Phil Moss, Francis, of course, who's taken on another club with perennial finalists, a club that has high expectations and have left and lost a significant number of players. Of all the clubs, I'd have to say that they would probably be the one club that has turned over the highest number of players consistently. It's been a great breeding ground for players to go on and play, particularly in Asia, I think, and that's been at the cost for the Mariners, yet they've invested significantly in being able to identify good young Australian talent and bring it through and encourage it. Tommy Rogic is one of those. Matt Simon has now returned to the club. Just a tremendous club, really, to be. And Phil Moss has been there for some time under the guidance of Graham Arnold. And I would fancy that their consistency will be the biggest issue for Adelaide City. They're a strong club, Adelaide, and can score goals, but they really have demonstrated that they can be quite vulnerable in defence.
Well, ABC Grandstand A-League will be there tomorrow for that one as well. Josip Gombau having recommitted to the club for another couple of seasons. The man from Barcelona, the Catalan, whose early time in Adelaide got a bit rough and stormy. And he felt the pressure there for a while, but he has started to turn things around there, and they've reinvested their faith in him. All of that and more to talk about soon on ABC Grandstand A-League. It's half-time here at the Docklands Stadium. Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1.
This is Grandstand's coverage of the A-League. You can hear it again with Grandstand's A-League replays. A-League replays. If you've got a digital radio, tune into ABC Grandstand Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursdays for A-League replays.
Welcome back here to the Docklands Stadium. It's been a fantastic first 45 between Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC. It's Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1 at the long break. It was Archie Thompson who opened the scoring on 19 minutes, only to have his goal cancelled out by Seb Ryle about 12 minutes later. And both teams had really solid chances after that. Archie Thompson not able to control the ball from about 8 yards near the right post. And he was played through. It was just a little bit under his toes, and he just couldn't pick up the rebound from Janjetovic, and the goal went bigging. And then at the other end, ploughing in near post was Alessandro Del Piero from a ball that was neatly clipped in from the left-hand side from Richard Garcia, and he hit flush the post right in front of him, and it went cannoning away, just inches away from Sydney FC going ahead before the break.
We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one.
You're listening to ABC Radio.
You are, we are Australian. We are Australian.
ABC Sport, your home of rugby.
Now we reset and we go again. Kim Monteliadores.
It's been a wonderful first half, Francis. I think probably after about 15 or 20 minutes, we felt that the atmosphere in the game was a little subdued, didn't we? It started off, both teams were obviously anxious not to make any errors and lose and give away the lead. So that resulted in both teams being particularly conservative in the way in which they both pressed and tried to play the ball out through the opposition. Well, that soon changed after Melbourne Victory went ahead, and after that the game is picked up to a much higher tempo and has been incredibly entertaining. I must say it's been a pleasure to watch and a delight to call here tonight.
How do you see the second half playing, and who are the key players on either side that can change the dynamic of this game?
Well, we saw Del Piero gradually play himself further into that game. Generally, of course, his best is in the first 60 minutes of a game, but given this is his last game, I imagine that Frank Farina will certainly stick with him as long as possible. Sydney certainly were far more dangerous as he was able to fashion his own involvement and increase his contribution. But I do think that the support he's getting from Dimitrovic in particular, who's been very busy, and Seb Ryle, who's created that attacking power from deep on the right-hand side, has been tremendous for Sydney FC. Their defence has been quite good. I must say Ogdanovsky and German and Petkovic have been reasonably stable. But they've been unable to cope with Victory on the counter-attack. With no doubt the difference in pace between the teams, but Victory have only really been able to capitalise on one of the couple of chances they have created.
Would there have been an inquiry, a bit of a heart-to-heart in the Melbourne Victory change rooms about how Seb Ryle was able to steal in, ghost in between three defenders to find a way for the reply, the equaliser?
I doubt if any of those defenders are left in any doubt as to what their responsibility should have been. Kevin Muscat, of course, knows that better than anyone in being able to defend that 6-yard box. But it was a magnificent cross by Ali Abbas after being released by Alessandro Del Piero. But yeah, you're quite right, Francis. There were three of them who were flat-footed, and Seb Ryle made a direct run to that near post and was able to just finish the ball from inside that 6-yard box. And this should never really happen when Victory have that sort of cover.
Well, Sydney FC finished that first half quite strongly. Can they bring the same to the table at the start of this second half? But you do feel that Troyes in particular still holds the key to this game if he can unlock the defence in a similar fashion as he did in that first half. He's the standout player out there at the moment. Del Piero, of course, has been building into it, and we just wonder how deep he can go into this game and continue to do so. But he's a champion who's won things at all levels. He's a World Cup winner, multiple winner of Serie A, the Scudetto in Italy. He's seen him done it all, and tonight will be another one of those moments where, like all great champions, he senses the occasion and probably just ekes a little bit more out from what he might normally be able to find in a fixture maybe of not such import.
Well, that's right, and of course he has so much to draw on. You know, Del Piero is probably peerless in terms of talents that have joined the Australian ranks, certainly in the National League and A-League for a whole season. There have been some great players who've made guest stints, of course, but in the recent times, Alessandro Del Piero is probably the biggest of all names, and he's certainly done that. His exquisite left foot, both the front and the back of his foot, his heels, his touch on the ball and his vision have really been a tremendous example to the local players. But he's a real threat for victory, and we haven't yet seen whether he has that 90 minutes in him, and that's the only question in my mind.
Back underway here, ABC Grandstand Digital. Elimination Final, Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC, 1 each at the start of this second half. Victory immediately defending from their penalty area and giving the ball away. Antonis picks it up. He fires from distance and he forces Coe into a save from about 40 yards. As that one bounced awkwardly in front of him and his left post, and he's had to tip it around the corner for a corner kick.
Great strike from Terry Antonis. We talked about his ability on the ball, that right peg of his, although he's equally good with his left, but shooting from 40 yards is an indication of his state of mind. Very positive.
So Del Piero, a corner kick to start off this second half. People barely retaking their seats. Near post it goes, not his best ball in, and it'll come back out to him on the ricochet, so he can try again. This time he lifts it towards the 6-yard box, and it's in there from Matt German. It's kicked out.
How did he save that?
Coe somehow claws it out.
Unbelievable.
I thought that it crept in under the post. Nathan Coe, with a life-saving grasp of the ball, has just denied Matt German, who had a free header that looked like it was
from
bound.
6 yards. Look at that.
Oh.
That is incredible. He actually, in mid-air, he was able to almost grab the ball in one hand and scoop it over the bar. That save alone will get him a contract in Europe, Francis.
Del Piero goes the near post. It's another ball that was inviting Garcia in. In the end, he heads wide, and it's Coe, who pulled off some amazing saves midweek against Guangzhou Evergrande as well. He's back in top form. I mean, he was dropped from this team about 2 months ago. Lawrence Thomas was given a stint which was a shaky experiment, to say the least, and now Coe's back in there, and he's at the top of his game. That was a great save.
World class, Francis. That save was incredible reflexes and technique in mid-air to be able to control the ball as he did and keep it from going into the net. Matt German was just outside the 6-yard box and got a lot of purchase on that header. It was an incredible save, and Melbourne Victory have Nathan Coe to thank about for still being in this game.
Well, there are two very close calls. One was Del Piero smashing the ball from close range into the post, and that one was Nathan Coe finding a way to claw out Matt German. Said it looked all but in the back of the net. They're going to make the most of their good fortune here. Left-hand side, Traore, not a good ball. Easily picked off by Kienese. Sydney FC trying to work down the right wing. Milligan sees it out for a throw. Kienese will take. No, he won't. He'll flick it back and invite somebody else to step up and take control of things. It's Ryle. He goes back to his key defenders in Ognanovsky and Bekovic. Down on the ball to German, who almost puts Sydney FC ahead. Gives a nice ball down the left-hand side. Contreras takes charge here. Back to Coe, whose clearance is dug out adequate and enough towards halfway. Abbas. Hold, throw yourself with one in front of Frankfurt in his bench. They call for a foul. They get it. It's a Sydney FC ball. Abbas gives Treyase a bit of a shove, and he's always been a fiery character, Ali Abbas.
Yeah, he is really. He's a really passionate player, Ali Abbas. You can tell it means everything to him to be playing A-League football here for Sydney FC. He gives everything in every game and wears his heart on his sleeve. And can be to the detriment of the team and himself, but certainly his wholeheartedness can never be doubted.
German tried to play Abbas in down the left-hand side. Del Piero comes in a tangle with Contreras. Sydney FC win the throw. Quickly they take it to Abbas, who's down near the left corner flag. Guerrier watches him closely. Abbas shifts it towards Antonis, who's looking to get to the byline on the left. He's there now. First time ball to the back post. Oganovsky was there. Goal-saving intervention there from Traore. Still, it's out near the right corner flag. It's put back in there. Coe parries away, but only as far as Dimitrovic on the edge of the area. Sydney FC trying to maintain possession. Couldn't do so. Guerrier hurriedly away to the centre circles. Melbourne victory under the pump here. It's 1-1. 49 minutes played.
They certainly are, and they're a little bit of panic, aren't they? They've lost their composure. Sydney FC are finding their way through with quite easily. Ali Abbas once again elusive on the left-hand side, and his cross there was superb, and difficult to see how that ball didn't end up in the net off Garcia's head there at the far post, and somehow it trickled a little bit wide. But Victory really struggling to gain control of this game through possession, and for the first time in a long time we've seen Mark Milligan on the ball with time and space, which is a credit to Sydney FC in the way in which their midfield is compressing and pressuring Melbourne Victory out of this game.
Kim Monteliador, some special comments here. Francis Leach with you as well. Joe Sullivan, he's at ground level. Sydney FC have had the better of the start of this second half. 50 minutes played. Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1. ABC Grandstand A-League Elimination Final on ABC Grandstand Digital. Guerrier for the victory. It's Traore, who just got enough of a header in front of Oganovsky to deny this big Socceroo a chance to nod home at the near post. Ansell steps across in front to win the ball on halfway for Melbourne Victory, but then he gives it away straight away to Antonis, who's clipped, fouled, free kick for Sydney FC, just behind the halfway line. Del Piero walks away from Finkler, he puts an arm across him, pulls him down, foul, free kick for Sydney FC, quickly played by Antonis down the right-hand side. Not the smartest of balls. Traore's there in front of Bryle. Traore happy to set it out for a throw. 1-1.
Well, Sydney certainly have come out in the second half positive from the outset. In fact, it was Terry Antonis had a shot within the first 30 seconds from Sydney FC, and since then they haven't let up, and we're now 6 minutes into the second half. They really are stepping up the tempo and looking to take this game to victory.
Broxham from Knox has been a combative and important part. The everyman for the Melbourne Victory on the ball again there. He's certainly improved as a player too in recent years. Fired forward for Victory, headed back by German. He does well to find
very good header.
This is Nikola Petkovic for Sydney FC at left back. He's dawdling on the ball, so be careful, and he does give it away. He's like a tourist in his own defensive area then. He can't afford to be in a final. Milligan from the centre circles. Thompson touches with the outside of the boot. It's a bit heavy. Can't find a teammate. Garcia. Contreras dives in. Tackle. Foul. Got the ball, but Peter Green said got the ball and the man. Sydney FC want to play the quick free kick to Del Piero. He's down the left in some space. And the referee, Peter Green, not happy with that. Joe Sullivan's on the sideline, and Frank Farina's finally off his chair, Joe.
He certainly is, but I tell you who was off more quickly than he was, Kevin Muscat, and he was furious, pointing and screaming. Not a happy chappy.
Rightly so. He actually kicked the ball there, and it was on the receiving end of a late Garcia tackle, and somehow conceded the free kick. Poor decision by the ref, but up until this point, I think Peter Green has got most things right. Francis, he's had a good game, and he's been able to keep control of this fixture. There haven't been any cynical tackles, and it's been played in a good spirit.
Fourth official Jared Gillett just going over to the Melbourne Victory bench and having a stern headmaster's word with Kevin Muscat.
Is he the man to reason with Kevin Muscat? Finally.
Sydney FC bursting forward down the right-hand side. Opportunity goes begging there for Kianese, who just couldn't clip it over Nathan Coe. In fact, it took a deflection over the Victory keeper. He came rushing out to deny him, and it's a corner kick. But Sydney again catching Melbourne Victory flat-footed. Looking at the replay there, he just gets a finger on it again, Coe.
Yeah, just clipped his hand and then onto his head to flick over the bar. But once again, the Victory being caught square there, and there was a tremendous counter-attack from Sydney FC to create that opportunity. Chinese really has some speed, and Traore didn't go with him on that occasion. It was a good chance, a very good chance for Sydney FC.
Del Piero's flat corner kick towards near post doesn't really offer anyone an opportunity, and in the end there's a foul in the box. It will be a victory ball. 1-1 it stays. 54 minutes played here. ABC Grandstand A-League football. Archie Thompson put victory ahead. Former victory man Seb Rowell replied about 12 minutes later to square things up at the break. And Sydney FC have had the best opportunities at the start of this second half. Nathan Coe clawing a Matt German header out of the net. And saw Kinese through there with a ball that just, once again, Coe was just able to get enough on it to tip it over the bar. Victory haven't really threatened at the other end as yet in this second half.
Lovely ball, Seb.
Milligan.
That was a lovely
spinning
ball.
away, but couldn't control it. But Finkler does for victory. Now Triose, he hasn't really been able to get involved in this second half. They're closing down quickly. They've recognised the danger and they're working harder to make James Triose more accountable when he's on the ball. Dimitrovic happy to concede to Ognjanowski and Sydney FC. I'd say, I don't look at the possession stats at the moment, Kimon, but I think at the moment, in this second period, they've really been pulling the strings in this one so far.
Most certainly. I'd be well over 60%, I'd imagine, in this second half.
Middle of the park now. Triose, sharp ball to the left. This time there was just too much energy on that one for Archie Thompson to chase. His first time pass from a ball that was skittling towards him in the middle of the park. The idea was good. A little bit too much on that one for Archie Thompson. It's a throw for Sydney FC. They go back to Ognjanowski. Right back, and then he sees Pekovic standing right on the penalty spot in front of Janjetovic, and they'll spread to the left-hand side here.
Well, so far in this first 10 minutes of the second half, Victory haven't yet really been in possession in the Sydney FC half, have they, Francis? They've been either defending or only had the ball in their own possession in their defensive half. It's been complete domination from the Sydney FC side.
Del Piero this time is the man who makes the foul. It's a Victory free kick in front of the halfway line. Guerrier comes up over halfway on the right and invites Broxham to take charge of things. Almost stepped into Del Piero, but maintains control of the ball. Guerrier for Victory on the right-hand side, just ahead of halfway. Surrounded by opponents, but is able to find Finkler from the outside of the boot. Finkler battling away there with a very determined Richard Garcia, who is fouled and wins the free kick for Sydney FC. Kianese, in fact it was Antonis, who gets funneled over by the harrying hustle of James Triose. He's got Ognjanowski now inside his own penalty area. He lifts it long down the right. Over the back it drifts, and Victory have Ansell there to deal with it. Contreras, who was able to pilfer the ball from Alessandro Del Piero in his own half to set up the first goal for Melbourne Victory. And then he loses the ball here. Abbas did really well to see off an opponent. Antonis comes to the right through Dimitrovic. Seb Rowell, the goal scorer now. Adjacent to the penalty area. Comes a bit more centrally here to Antonis. Left side he goes. Del Piero. 25 yards out from goal.
Oh,
beautiful, sharp ball into the box. Comes here to German towards the attacking D. This is a chance for Antonis. He couldn't quite get the shot off on the right boot. It was smothered by the Victory defence. Can they lead a breakout here? Triese's on the ball, but it's all sky blue ahead of him. In fact, it's Barbarouses who invites Triese in. On the right-hand side, they come to the left. This is Archie Thompson trying to arc his way more centrally to Barbarouses. He has Finkler waiting near the attacking D. No one on the overlap on the outside, on the right-hand side, and that might come at a cost because the move sort of breaks down. Broxham 30 yards out from goal. Through the middle they're trying to come here. Barbarouses back here to Triese. It bobbles around in there. And in the end, he couldn't get on the end of it. They tried to walk through a wall of sky blue there, and that was always going to be too hard. Goal kick.
Very much so, but encouraging for Melbourne Victory. It's the first time this half that they've been able to string successive passes together in a forward momentum to be able to create that opportunity. But the Sydney FC defence was very structured and strong and well positioned on that occasion, and they were comfortably defended that Melbourne Victory foray. Tremendous start to the second half. This is genuine finals football now. It's just starting to build anxiety, I think, Francis. The errors matter so much more now, and the level. Oh, Del Piero's just playing some sublime balls, isn't he?
He wins the ball back for Melbourne, for Sydney FC. It was a challenge on Pablo Contreras that initially it seemed Peter Green was going to let ride.
I think it was late. It looked late to me, and he tried to play the advantage.
Well, he gets the ball.
No, he got the ball as well.
He took the player. And seems Peter Green's playing. Even if you do one, you do the other. It's a foul.
Yep, and Contreras, poetic justice for him there, wasn't it? Because he was penalised having done the same thing and was the beneficiary on that occasion. But it was only his...
Barbarousis down the right-hand side. First time ball is, in the end, not well delivered, because it was pretty much straight at Janjetovic as Archie Thompson was trying to get to the back post. He needed to bend that away in front of the keeper there. He just hit it a little too square.
And there was a classic Melbourne Victory play there, wasn't it, with Barbarousis on the right-hand side looking to play that ball into the space in the middle with Archie Thompson bearing down on goal, but he just didn't quite get the curl on the ball, and as a result the ball ended up in the safe hands of Janjetovic.
Sydney player down in the middle of the park after the collision with Richard Garcia. The whistle isn't blown. Play goes on. Sydney down to 10 at the moment as Garcia picks himself up. Archie Thompson, 35 yards out down the left-hand side. Finkler and Troyer. It's all pretty tight out there at the moment. Archie's on the ball again. Not the first time ball in there, but there's a line of sky blue players across the edge of the area. One of them is Nikola Pekovic, who lifts it to the middle of the Dockland Stadium. And it's Pablo Contreras, the Chilean international, who picks it up. Milligan for the Victory on the left again. Towards Treyase into the box. Ogonowski is waiting there and provides the block, concedes the corner. And Victory have their first corner of the second half.
It was difficult to see James Troisi being able to turn Sash Ogonowski there, wasn't he? A colossus when he's closing in on the ball there. There's not too much daylight between, or there's not too much light that gets through Sash Ogonowski when he's narrowed the angle that well. Excellent positional play from him, and Troisi tried to switch that left. He tried to hook that ball in with his left foot, but out for a corner.
Finkler from the left corner flag for Melbourne Victory. Lifts it to the back post. Janjetovic doesn't claim it's still there. Gets it on the second try.
Did well there, quickly to react to having dropped the ball. He was quick to pounce upon it again and calm things down again for Sydney FC.
61 minutes played. Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1. Both the goals in the first half. If you're just joining us on ABC Grandstand A-League, Francis Leach, Kim Monteliadoris, Joe Sullivan with you. Started with Archie Thompson on 19 minutes, adding to his tally of goals over a decade of playing against Sydney FC in classic Archie style. Then he won around the outreached arm Vedran Janjetovic, and then about 14 minutes later, Seb Ryle provided the equaliser, stepping in between three defenders and firing home past Nathan Coe. And we see the ball bobble over the byline there for a Sydney FC goal kick.
Smart play by Sash Ogonowski there to fool Finkler into thinking he was going to play the ball, instead just letting it run harmlessly out into to touch, and for Sydney FC to pick up the goal kick.
So goal kick it is. Janjetovic takes his time. And along he goes. It's a aerial contest in the middle of the park. Broxham wins the second ball, and it's just caught from by Seb Ryle, and Nathan Coe watches it bounce up high in front of him on the edge of his penalty area. Has no trouble playing it. So Victory try to work from the back again.
And even if Victory were to get through tonight, it doesn't get any easier for them, does it, Francis, over the next week or so with ACL and finals?
Kimmer Muscat said, let the fixtures pile up. We want to be playing all the time. It makes us a better team. That is the mentality you have to have, though, isn't it, really? Is Tracy on the left here. I found late goals in recent games. Milligan steps through a couple. Right-hand side, poor delivery, adjacent to the penalty area, looking to whip one into the box, and then it comes slicing off his boot and high and wide. Doesn't even trouble Janjetovic's goal. It goes wide of everything and out for a goal kick, but he did beautifully to step around Seb Ryle, and then his good work came undone.
Yeah, skewed off mongrel
punt. As we might say
in the AFL vernacular.
Yeah, it was a shocker.
It was. It really was. But nice footwork prior to that to get past to get past German.
1-1 it stays, 64 played. German jumps high, wins their head on the left wing for Sydney FC. Finkler works hard to win it back. And it's stepped across, and the ball that was looking for Archie Thompson is seen over the line for a throw. In front of Kevin Muscat's pitch, he walks away and asks Jason Geary to take on that job. Geary goes back over halfway. Contreras there. Milligan showed that deft turn of pace and quick feet to beat a couple of defenders a moment ago. Traore. There's no way down the left, so he has to come back towards halfway. Sydney FC pressing more impressively in this second half. They might win the ball back here again. They do. It's Victory. They're hesitant in the middle. They're now the team that's under the most pressure. Sydney coming forward. Kienese on the right-hand side. Dimitrijevic towards Garcia's back heel was a good one, but just couldn't find Kienese. He was there or thereabouts. Now the counter is on. This suits Victory. 3-on-3.
3-on-3.
Traise coming forward. Finkler in the box. Not a good ball on that occasion, though, from the left-hand side.
Poor choice by Troisi there, but Victory broke well. It was 3-on-3. Terry Antonis worked hard to get back and put pressure on Troisi, but really played. It was an innocuous cross in the end and really didn't present Finkler with an opportunity to do anything.
Abbas on the left to Del Piero, central on the outside of his boot, left-hand side. This is Garcia. It's there in the 6-yard box. Victory have plenty of defenders around it. This time they're alert to the danger. And now the counter might be on again. Troise, halfway line, steps over it now. On the right, he has Archie Thompson, who's bending his way forward, and it's the dummy run to allow Finkler to come on the right-hand side. Approaching the area, he's going to go on the right boot. Oh, good covering, though, by German and Pekovic, defending in numbers 5 and 6. They can see the corner, but the shot was never going to get to Janjetovic to even ask the question. Corner kick from the right-hand side.
This Sydney FC defence has been impressive tonight, I must say, Francis. More often than not, when Victory have had the ball in possession, they've been able to assemble themselves into a very comprehensive and defensive, very effective defensive unit. The only time Victory have really threatened is on the counter-attack, and more often than not, Victory's penultimate pass has let them down.
We'll go downstairs. Joe Sullivan, Kevin Muscat's going to swing his first change before this corner is taken.
Indeed, Scott Galloway due to come on here for the Victory. Making way here for Jason Geary. Making his way off to some thunderous applause.
Done a reasonable job tonight. Galloway will come in and play that role right back for Melbourne. Victory will stay back a little here. He won't go forward and be part of this corner kick. It's a pea soup inside the 6-yard box as they set themselves. It's long and deep. Milligan will look at it. Ogonowski will be taller and stronger and see that over the back. And in the end, it was a nothing corner from Troisi, and it's a throw for Sydney FC at right back.
Now, what would Kevin Muscat be thinking there? Jason Geary, I think, has had a reasonable game, but I think what we have seen from Galloway in the past is his ability to get forward on the right-hand side. He has incredible pace, and may well provide that attacking option and ability to overlap on the right-hand side.
Geary might be feeling the pain here. We'll get down to that in a second. The Sydney FC coming forward again. Good tackle from Contreras. As Kienese was charging down the right towards the penalty area. Pablo Contreras, no-nonsense challenge, won the ball and averted the danger.
He's
Galloway
been good tonight.
on right-hand side, that's a good ball down the right-hand channel. Troise being guarded by Pekovic, plays the 1-2. In fact, it's Barbarousis on the ball now. Adjacent to the penalty area, still he keeps it alive. This is Troise now. Wants to wind up on that left boot, looking for something out on the left-hand side. 35 yards out, Milligan, short to the point of the area. Back heel there from Finkler. This is Barbarousis. Listen to the back post. There's nobody there except Archie Thompson. He's standing alongside Sasha Ognjanowski. Was never going to beat him in that aerial challenge. Traore keeps it alive from the left-hand side. Comes back out, though. Victory trying to press and ask a few questions now. Troise has two defenders around him. Comes further out to Ansell and then Milligan. In front of the centre circles. 1-1 it is. Finkler centrally in front of the attacking D. Back to Barbarousis on the right-hand side. What's the delivery like? Looking to maybe fire in from the near post.
Tackle.
Great defending, Pekovic. Or German it was, who stood tall. Still they come, Victory. Finkler hit the volley, but straight into an opponent.
It stood up nicely for him to hit onto that with that left foot, but superb play there from Melbourne. Victory. Barbarousis is now finding himself with a little bit more space. That looked to be offside, didn't it?
Long way. The flag stayed down, but It's always difficult for the keeper because he has to wait until the player's active before he can raise the flag. And Nathan Coe's screaming at the assistant out there saying he was well offside. Just looking at the scoreboard and the screen up there, Joe Sullivan, Jason Geary, looks like he's got some ice attached to one of his limbs, so he's obviously picked up a bit of an injury.
Yeah, just a little bit of a knock there, as you mentioned, on one of his legs there. I think he's slightly obscured for the moment. I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a busy calendar, as we know, and the youngster's been involved in most of it. 1-1 it stays. 68 minutes. Still time to decide this in regular time. If not, we go to extras, and then after that, penalties.
What a ball.
Milligan, 30 yards out centrally. Tracy tries to dance through a forest of sky blue socks. Can't do so. Comes out to Barbarousse. His touch was good. And Tracy was just on his heels from the right-hand side. If he had been going forward with some momentum, a chance might have opened up, at the moment is lost.
And what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 minutes from this Melbourne Victory side is a little more of what we've come to expect, that tiki-taka style of possession play in the attacking third, as they try to find a way through this sky blue wall. But really, I must say, the Sydney defence has been outstanding tonight. The four across the back have won most of their tackles. It's been difficult to penetrate them, and the defence has worked hard very as well. In fact, often there are 10 Sydney FC players behind the ball.
Joe, it looks like Alessandro Del Piero has spent his pennies for the evening.
It is. He's the one who is walking to the sideline. I think the sign initially went up for Joel Chianese, but looking to come on is Ranko Despodovic for the Sky Blues. In fact, it is Chianese who's making way now for Despodovic.
Well, Del Piero looked like he was coming to the bench, and then he's been told to stay out there. So both coaches have gone to their bench just the once, mindful, I guess, that there might be extra time here.
Indeed. And we're now at the 70-minute mark, and Alessandro Del Piero, he's certainly the middle 30 minutes of this game to date has been wonderful. Just yet has been a little bit quieter the last 5 or so minutes, but that's consistent with Victory now dominating possession and consistently in the Sydney FC half.
They give it away though in their own half here. And here's Terry Antonis in the middle. Good ball on the left-hand side. And this is Ranko Despodovic. He's barreling towards the byline on the left. He was being hassled and harried. And in the end, Galloway's hard work to get back pays off, puts him off his shot, and he's sprayed that one wide. But good ball to release him. And the fresh legs looked a little alarming for Melbourne Victory for a moment there.
Yeah. He burst with a great deal of speed and power towards that near post, but was never really in control of his technique on that occasion, and his shot sprayed well wide.
1-1 it stays. Right-hand ball looking here for Barbarousse, seen away in the defensive D there by Matt German. And it's back to Sydney FC keeper Janjetovic to deal with. And he comes out back to German at left back. Looks up. A lot on, so we'll go long. Asked for Despodovic to chase something that was a little bit too long for him. It's Milligan now for the Melbourne Victory. Behind halfway, short to Finkler. A couple of defenders around him, so gives to Broxham. Still, it's all a bit narrow for Victory. They come out on the right-hand side now to Tracy. He's back to Broxham. 45 yards out. Still looking to find a way through. Tracy has been the man in recent times to do that for the men in navy blue. On the right-hand side, they go Galloway.
Well done.
Steps away from German. Shows some good close control. Nice ball attacking deep. Finkler. Barbarousse fires. There's nobody there as he pulls that one, drags it away. Maybe towards the back post, but really that was a shot gone wrong. There was nobody trailing in on the back post there to try to clip that home. But a moment passes again as we've got an attendance figure here, Joe Sullivan.
Yeah, just over 20,000, 20,802. And I'm not sure what you would call par, considering there was a midweek game for Melbourne Victory. What are your boys' thoughts?
Disappointing crowd.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's fair to say they'd be disappointing, particularly with Melbourne Victory coming into some good form, and of course the great rivalry between these wonderful clubs. So I would have thought 25 to 30 was par.
Right now, worry about the only numbers that really matter on the scoreboard, and it's 1-1. Garcia for Sydney. Despodovic does well. Left-hand side they come. It's opening up here for Del Piero. Always dangerous when he gets the ball inside the final third. Galloway watches warily as he does well to pinch the ball off, but only as far as Ali Abbas, who drops the shoulder, then comes back out to German. Inside the final third here, Sydney FC. Pekovic back to the left-hand side. Abbas will deliver towards the back post. It's at the Garcia territory, but Traore did really well to see it away. Sydney FC on the ball again here. Pekovic, 35, 40 yards out. Thinks about going long first up. Del Piero was in an offside position, couldn't chase. The idea was good. The timing poor. It's out for a goal kick. Coe rolls it quickly to Milligan, who's in some space in front of the defensive D. Finkler has to backpedal to keep the move going forward. Over halfway they come now, Melbourne Victory. Traore's on the ball. 1-1 it is. Is there a winning goal between these two teams in this last 20 minutes or so? Milligan, not a good ball. Didn't find Finkler, only found Ali Abbas for Sydney FC. Despotovic is maybe the player that can change the dynamic of things in the final part of this game as Ansell picks up a card for getting a boot on the big Sydney striker. And it's a Sydney FC free kick just in front of the halfway line. Francis Leach and Kim Ontiliadouris with you on ABC Grandstand Digital. Joe Sullivan watching at ground level for us. The Sky Blues. Pekovic goes left and along the carpet. Oh, look at that turn from Del Piero. Just rolls off. Galloway sees Abbas in. There it is, an opportunity. Side netting from Despotovic. Or was it Garcia? It was Garcia. But what play from Alessandro Del Piero. Just leant into Galloway, rolled off him, and then gave the ball on a plate to Abbas, who honoured that with a beautifully clipped ball into the area. Garcia arrived, just couldn't control his shot. Melbourne Victory dodge another bullet.
Gee, that was crisp play by Sydney FC, wasn't it? Bing, bang, bong. That was magnificent play. Del Piero, Abbas, and Despotovic would be very disappointed. That was a good chance for him. Possibly even easier than the one that Del Piero had a little bit earlier in the first half.
1-1 it stays. And Sydney FC have been more likely in this second 45. Ball over the top, long to Archie Thompson, who does draw the offside flag again. Who's got the better legs if we go to extra time?
It's a good question, but one would have to imagine that Sydney FC would have the advantage, even though they're the travelling side, simply on the basis that Victory have had that midweek game,
which was played at a very hectic pace.
Yeah.
And I want to end it here if they can. I want to go to 90.
And they had to play that game right through to the whole 90, didn't they, Francis? They were only 1-0 up for most of that game, and a win was important to give them a chance, a real chance to advance, which they now have within their own control.
I want to advance here if they can. And Sydney FC have a much sturdier proposition in this second half defensively as well as going forward. 1-1 it stays. 77 minutes on the clock. Foot race on. Despotovic is there down the left, but he's drawn the offside flag as he was in a foot race with Contreras on a ball that was approaching the penalty area. You just feel the fans now sensing the moment of truth's arrived, and they're up on their feet.
It's about time.
Milligan. Rocks him in the middle of the park for the victory.
So certainly since Despotovic has come on, he's involved himself very heavily. A couple of offsides, a very good chance, and there was a good tackle there to dispossess Milligan. He's an important player for Sydney FC. This defensive theirs has been outstanding tonight, led by Ognanovski, but faithfully supported too by Petkovic in German, and even Ali Abbas, who's retreated on occasions. Seb Ryle, of course, has been steady on the right and even getting forward. So this Sydney FC team is definitely capable of winning this game.
And they're coming forward here. Despotovic, corner of the area. Right-hand side. This is Seb Ryle, the goal scorer. Towards Despotovic. Garcia's offside. Coe dies to save, but Richard Garcia was well offside. We'll go back downstairs. This is another substitution about to be made. It looks like Mahazi's about to step into the game.
No, you're spot on, Francis. I think you were spot on, both of you generally, that this is the time to make the change. This is the time to seize the moment, as you mentioned, Rashid Mahazi to come on at the expense of Lee Broxton for Melbourne Victory.
Thank you, Joe. So Muscat's gone to his bench for a second time. Brookston having worked so hard tonight and in midweek. It's the seat. Mahazi immediately on the ball. 78 minutes gone. This is Tracy. Centrally, 45 yards out. The creative force in this Melbourne Victory team. Short to Finkler. Still he comes forward. In the end it runs out of room. But Victory picked the ball up again back in Sydney FC's half. Finkler
lovely
slides
skill.
past a couple of challenges and then had to take it a whirl on and it come unstuck. Seb Ryle out left, right back for Sydney FC. Garcia bending and shaking his way through the defensive zone. Comes to the left-hand side. A bit more space out here for Matt German. Happy to concede some ground and just allow those in front of him to reset. One of them's Del Piero. And he's back to big Sasha Ogrenovsky, who heads further back to Janjetovic, and they just play a nice tight little triangle out towards Pekovic. This time he drives it long. Despatovic is providing a target up there, jumps high. And in the end, fruitlessly as it bounces over the back. Ansel heads it back to Nathan Coe. Melbourne Victory trying to play quickly through the middle again. Milligan gives it up. Del Piero picks it up. And he's immediately lost out to Milligan, who was quick to get a foot in. Both teams getting a bit sloppy here. Sydney FC on the ball now. Abbas short to Del Piero. Will the overlap come on the left-hand side? Tries to run away from the couple. Gets taken down by Contreras. It's a Sydney FC free kick after that foul. About 40 yards out. Fairly central position.
Yes, Francis, you're quite right. That has been a scrappy period just then, with neither team able to really maintain possession. There's been 4 or 5 consecutive turnovers in the middle of midfield, and Alessandro Del Piero fouled on that occasion as he tried to break through past Contreras and create some space for himself to be able to use that delightful skill of his. But now probably a bit too far out to score, I would imagine, from a direct free kick.
Well, will he go with a thunderbolt here? He will, and it is high and wide. And, not befitting the great man there. Goal kick.
Draws the ire of the crowd.
Our eyes turn to the clock more regularly now. 80 minutes played. Long ball down the right-hand side. Archie Thompson's onside here, and he'll lead Seb Ryle to the ball. It's in fact German. He squares it up. Galloway, edge of the area, on the right. A little bit slow to decide what to do with it. They get numbers back in sky blue and see it out for a throw. The momentum of that attack was lost pretty quickly there. Galloway with the throw. 20 yards up from the corner flag. Once again, 1 or 2 touches are nice, but took on too much and lost the ball. Alibas trying to lead the breakout for Sydney FC. Just good touch there.
Yeah, it was. Antonis recovered there well there, didn't he, Francis? He wasn't expecting that cheeky little flick from Del Piero, less than 5 yards from him, but he dealt with it well to keep possession.
81.5 played. Melbourne Victory won. Sydney FC won both goals in the first half. Anything now you sense would be decisive for either team. Francis Leach, Kim Ontiliadorus, Joe Sullivan with you at Dockland Stadium for ABC Grandstand Digital. The winner plays on next week. The loser. Now league season ends here tonight.
And of course, there's any number of possibilities for which games might occur next weekend. But either way, the victor of tonight plays either Brisbane or the Wanderers, depending on the other semi-final result.
Away from home too. This is a campaign on the road for Sydney FC full stop. Melbourne Victory's one chance to play a home final. FIFA inside Sydney's territory here with the sub, Rashid Mahasi. Down the right to the other substitute in Galloway. Need to show some patience and guile. Comes to midfield. Milligan's first time touch looking for Troyese. He's seen off it by Pekovic.
Strong again. That Sydney defence really impressive tonight.
They are, and they've got some work to do here as Milligan is running solidly at the ball and jumping in with a solid challenge there was Dimitrijevic. He got all of the ball and Mark Milligan, no whistle this time. He was in defensive territory for Sydney FC. Any mistake now will be, you think, fatal for either team. And as you said, Kim, you just feel the pressure mount on every touch now, don't you? players become a little hesitant not to be the one to make the fatal error. Down along the right-hand side do Sydney go. Seen away with a header by Nick Ansell. Throw on halfway for the Sky Blues. 1-1, 84 minutes about to tick up.
And it's interesting to note this last 10 or 15 minutes, Sydney FC have resorted more often to the long ball. They haven't tried to play through midfield at all, which is disappointing given the way in which they dominated the latter part of the first half and certainly the initial part of the second half. Electing to bypass Del Piero and Antonis in particular, as well as Dimitrijevic, who were all three very good in that period I just mentioned.
Victory seemed to have run out of momentum in this second half too. Some flourishes we saw in the first half that produced a few eye-catching moments and a goal. Less of them in this second 45. Doesn't mean they won't produce one to win it though, as they did on Tuesday night against Guangzhou Evergrande. And they come forward now on the left-hand side through Traore. Once again, he's a sort of stilted approach. He's looking for Barbarouses on the edge of the penalty area. There's three defenders around him. One of them is Terry Antonis. He's happy to see it out. Gets a clip on the way through. Foul, free kick for Sydney FC. Muscat not happy. It's almost a tautology.
That's right. In fact, if you looked up Muscat on Wikipedia, you may well find that.
I can tell you, in other games around the place at the moment, Melbourne Rebels are likely for a big win tonight. 80 minutes plus played down the road from here, and it's the Rebels 22, the Western Force 9, so they look to have that one parcelled up. In Super Rugby action. 85 minutes gone here. Elimination final. Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1. Is there a final defining moment here in regular time? German hopes so. With a ball like that, he's at least giving his team a chance to bash down the left-hand side, adjacent to the penalty area. First time ball in there. Ricochets around to the advantage of Nick Ansell and Galloway. Troyes had to drop deep to pick up the ball. Skips away from Terry Antonis well enough, but there's a big hole in the centre of the Victory's.
Well, he looked around there, didn't he? Looking for options. There weren't too many players ahead of him. Archie Thompson and Costa Barbarouses, both with at least two direct opponents on them. And it's only now that they've formed some shape and looking to try and play the ball once again on the ground. Milligan, really, he's been overwhelmed in this second half. Barely on the ball.
And he's fouling Alessandro Del Piero again. Is pulling his shirt and rolling the Italian legend over. And it's another free kick for Sydney FC. Victory really have run out of gas, it feels, when they're trying to transition through the middle of the park.
And it doesn't look as if he has any subs warming up there either. So it looks as if Kevin Muscat is happy with the hand that he's played at the moment and perhaps contemplating retaining as many options as possible for extra time.
It feels like that's where it's heading, but anything can happen. Traore digs one out. Long for Oganovsky to deal with.
Not a problem for the Sydney FC defence tonight. Those long speculative balls are really manna from heaven for them.
It makes their nice work a little easy when they're coming in long and high like that. A little bit too easy, really. Janjetovic. Feels like both teams now are just marshalling their forces to play extra time. It feels that way. It might not be the case, but it doesn't seem to be much urgency to find a winner in regular time. This is Milligan. Picked off by Ali Abbas. This is all central and midfield. Coming to the right-hand side, Sydney FC. Garcia. Antonis now. On the halfway line. Back he goes further still. 88 minutes about to tick over. 1-1 it is. Elimination final, so anything now is the moment, isn't it? This is Pekovic. All being played inside their own half at the moment, Sydney FC.
Sydney FC certainly don't seem in all that much of a hurry or feel any greater urgency to push forward. Happy to just knock the ball about in the middle third of the pitch. Keep possession.
Antonis tried to release through the middle. Despatovic didn't work. Picked up by Victory. Milligan. That's from Hazy, but he's going to be harassed here by Abbas. He spins away from him nicely enough. This is Galloway on halfway. Thompson's pulled out to the right-hand side. Through the middle, that's a poor ball, a nothing ball. Del Piero picks it up in front of Rashid Mahazi. Spreads it to the right-hand side. Sydney FC step over the halfway line. This is clipped forward. Something for Despotovic to chase, but there was too much on it. It's easy enough for Nathan Coe to come to the edge of the area and collect. 89 minutes now. We'll go down to Joe Sullivan soon to find out just how many minutes will be added for regular time before they regroup and go again. Will they need to? Finkler, he couldn't control it. Victory fans getting a little frustrated, that lack of craft of their team at the moment. Sliding save there, out there by Ansel as he saw Despotovic ghosting in behind him for a ball that came firing down the right-hand side.
That was a vital interception. That was a clever ball through there from Antonis, and Ansel just intervened in time to prevent any possibility of Despotovic advancing on goal.
The Sydney FC fans are in good voice, Joe. They feel like they've had the better of this in this second 45.
They have, and they've positioned themselves to their goal in this second half as well. So they've got a good view of where the ball is at the moment.
And it's a free kick for Sydney FC on wide right-hand side. 30 yards up from the corner flag and just a half a foot inside that right touchline. And it's Pekovic who will deliver it. It's not a bad ball. It's high and deep. It's Coe with a double fist away. He was fouled on the way through, and it'll be a Melbourne victory ball.
Yeah, high wide, and not really necessarily picking out any particular player. That was pretty easy for Nathan Coe to deal with, and he was fouled in the process. So this
just to reinforce the 3 minutes of extra time in this regulation time.
Thank you, Joe. The game really has sort of stopped to a walk, waiting for that extra time period. Nobody's really prepared to roll the dice and take it on and win it here. Galloway, down the right he goes. Barbarissus, he's forced back by German. Finkler. Galloway, heavy touch, looking to come inboard him, did well. Finkler, who steps over halfway, then first touch, direct he goes. Looking for someone on the outside, and Barbarissus on the right-hand side, nobody there. Snaking his way back out towards Galloway, puts it to the left, Traore. Victory maybe mounting one last effort here. Traore steps away from a couple. Into the penalty area he goes. Left-hand side, tries to fire it across. It's still there for Traore. Clips it inside. Finkler! And the winner! Steve Finkler scores the winner for Melbourne victory!
great goal.
The boy from Brazil delivers for Melbourne victory right at the death. And Sydney FC are bereft. All that hard graft through the 90 minutes to hang in when things were tough, to equalise and to threaten to win the game have all vanished, it would seem. The technique, the timing, the precision of Guy Finkler wins it for Melbourne victory. 2-1.
James Coe's a wonderful little run inside there, beat two players. His first cross was blocked. Adama Traore then pounced on the ball, clipped a little clever left foot ball into the far post, to the oncoming Guy Finkler, who's side foot with his left foot slipped inside that near post. Wonderful finish, and really, where did that come from? But once again, James Truisi took the initiative with the ball at his feet, drove forward, and created the mayhem in the Sydney FC defence, which allowed this space for Guy Finkler to be able to finish that cross. There's nowhere back from Sydney FC, surely.
Well, it never looked likely, but like lightning, Finkler showed the technique and the capacity. Del Piero's in the box on the end of a long ball, couldn't spin around in time from the ball that was headed on. Coe takes it. Victory need to just hold possession here, show a bit of medal here. Ball offside, flag goes up. Traore was bursting through the middle. And just to slow things down a little more, Joe Sullivan, we have another substitution.
Indeed, it could be the potential match winner. He's coming off in the final minute. His replacement, Jimmy Jago, about to come on for Guy Finkler. And boys, as you would imagine, with that goal going in injury time, absolute euphoria down here. I mean, I'm deep undercover in the Melbourne Victory camp on the sideline. There's so much joy, they've knocked over all of the post-match lollies. They're all over the floor.
Well, he's a player that many thought should have been in their Asian Champions League squad, but they have limited numbers for internationals. They decided that Finkley would be kept for the A-League season, and he might have delivered. Long ball into the box, headed away there by Contreras, headed back inside and away by Traore. This is Barbarouses, then on to Troise. Down the right-hand side, almost would have released him beyond halfway. It's just gone a little bit feral for everybody out there at the moment. Archie Thompson in the middle of the park. Barbarouses needs to stay onside, trying to bend his run. On the right-hand side is Archie Thompson. They don't need a third goal. They just need to press up and take it to the corner flag. We've now travelled 93 minutes. That's where they go. Right corner flag. Archie Thompson gets bundled over. The whistle blows. Melbourne Victory are through. Sometimes 90 minutes are enough. And tonight, Victory left it to the dying seconds to produce the moment of magic that was necessary to win in this game. 2014 is a year that Brazil becomes the focus of attention for the world game all over again, but here in Melbourne tonight it was a Brazilian that showed the flair and the technique that the country that plays the beautiful game better than most are famous for. Guy Finkler's winner in the Sydney FC season. Has it ended Alessandro Del Piero's career, and has it ended Frank Farina's career as coach of Sydney FC? It finishes Melbourne Victory 2, Sydney FC 1.
Whoa, Francis, what wonderful things this game can do for us. The emotion of that last goal, really from nothing. We were all coasting in towards that extra time from 1-1, both teams. It would appear they were pretty well content to see what could happen in that 30-minute overtime period. But that man, James Troisi, who was the key to Melbourne Victory in that first half, his inventiveness, his initiative and his confidence, that was what really drove him to take the Sydney defence on, who I must say acquitted themselves magnificently tonight. He beat two players, his cross was blocked, but it fell to Adama Traore. He clipped a beautiful ball in, and Guy Finkler, who's been largely but a side player for the whole match, I really must say. He hasn't been a significant contributor. He was on hand to kill the Sydney FC prospects for this season, and it may well signal a generational change for that club once again.
So the winner was a volley, really clipped right on 90 minutes, just as we were about to tick over. It might have been beyond the 90.
It was. It was into injury time, wasn't it?
And Melbourne Victory's ability to score late this week has been priceless. I did it against Guangzhou Evergrande on Tuesday night. They've done it again here. And then they're onwards to a knockout final again next week, either in Brisbane or the west of Sydney. That finishes Melbourne Victory 2, Sydney FC 1. Joe Sullivan's down there with everybody else, and the scenes are euphoric, Joe.
They certainly are. We'll hopefully have a chat with the Victoria's captain in Mark Milligan in just a moment. We're just going to get his headphones set up. Just bear with me. But you're absolutely spot on, Francis. Absolute euphoria here at the moment. And Mark Milligan, I think he's all set. You're hot and sweaty. How big an effort was that, having backed up from beating Guangzhou Evergrande 2-0 midweek?
Massive, mate. Look, if I'm honest, there was a lot of heavy legs out there tonight. And the first half, we wanted to keep the tempo high and see if we could get as much out of it as we could. Credit to them, they got one back. We were a little bit lazy. Second half was always going to be hard for us. As I said, there were some heavy legs, but look, our boys dug deep, and mate, we're running on fumes tonight. But look, we had enough. We wanted it more, I think, and we're going to freshen up and be ready for next week.
In terms of your time here at Melbourne Victory, I know this is only elimination final. We're on the road to the grand final. But in terms of a win tonight, you talked about all of the factors, but in Guangzhou Evergrande, tired legs, that sort of thing. Where does this win sit for you in Melbourne Victory?
Oh, look, it's massive. I think it's always a tough match against Sydney, and they've really given us a good run this year. So we haven't beat them. So tonight was the night we need to do that. Look, we've got a very determined group of boys, and we want to go all the way this year. So this is just the first step.
One more from me before we head upstairs with Francis and Kim on. But in terms of the preparation, I keep mentioning the game against Guangzhou, but the lessons that you've learned from the Asian Champions League heading into the finals of the A-League, is there any sort of things that you've been able to draw on, learn, extract from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a unit we've been defending better, but we've only been defending better because we've been holding on to the ball better. I think our possession game's got a lot better. We're still going forward and looking to get in behind whilst keeping the ball and picking our times a little bit better. So, look, I mean, I think tonight proved, even though the boys were tired, it's a 90th minute winner, and there's a lot of heart in this team, mate.
Mark, it's Francis Leach up here. Congratulations on the win. Just your personal take on some of the younger players who seem from here to have grown during this really hectic period on the road, the Asian Champions League campaign and everything else besides. We're really seeing them growing into really sharp, competent professional footballers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what the benefit of the Champions League is. You know, going into it, there were so many questions about, I guess, why we want to play in these sorts of tournaments. And you know, I think our young boys are, you know, proof's in the pudding with them. You know, they've got a lot of experience from playing in those massive games and against some great sides from Korea, Japan, and China. And you know, there's just not enough games in the A-League to get everyone a run. So for us to be in that, I think is really, you know, you really grow up quickly with the travel, the experienced teams you're playing, and look, our boys have all stood up, all of them.
Good on you, mate. We really appreciate your time tonight. It's been a great performance. You've been victorious and you're off to play in the Elimination Final. Mark Milligan, captain of the Melbourne Victory, where it's finished Victory 2, Sydney FC 1. Good night.
ABC Sport brings you the live AFL excitement you need to end your week right.
Curls it back superbly.
Can he go for goal? Turns on his left. Yes, he can. Ice cold.
Grandstand AFL.
Run down! Incredible grab. Open goal square. He's gone all the way.
He collects. He snaps. He's got it.
Friday Night Footy with Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app.
ABC Sport Digital Radio.
From the archives.